and welcome to Oman, where we are testing the new 2017 Audi RS3. Now, despite its good looks, luxurious interior and great driving dynamics, we never quite gelled with the previous generation car. Partly that was because of its expensive price tag, but as well as that, it did go from A to B very quickly, but it never had the same dynamic finesse as something such as a BMW 1 Series. Thankfully for 2017, Audi is focused heavily on the chassis. They've done that by fitting adaptive dampers, tweaking the electronic stability control, and widening the track front and rear. So, first things first, let's talk about that engine. Now, it's lighter than the unit it replaces, and it's also more powerful. And they've done that by giving it an aluminium crankcase over a steel one. Now, that has a few different effects. Not only does it offer up 32 brake horsepower, but it also means that there's less weight over the front nose, and that's only going to be better for the steering. Now, in a straight line, the old car was always pretty rapid, but for some reason, compared to a Focus RS or a Honda Type R, it didn't feel that quick, certainly not for the amount of money you were paying for it. But now, with an extra 32 brake horsepower, it feels properly fast. This has gone beyond the realms of a hot hatch, and it really is a hyper hatch. Because of the four-wheel drive system, if you get it hooked up properly off the line, you can get to 62 miles an hour in just 4.1 seconds. And from our testing, we've always found that Audi's claims are fairly conservative, so we would say you could probably dip into the 3 seconds. It'll also go on to 155 mile an hour top speed, but if you ask, Audi will very kindly raise the limiter to 174 miles an hour. But the big question is it any more fun than the car it replaces? And on that note, it absolutely is.
Inside, the predominantly black cabin is an exercise in restraint, but there are enough touches to indicate that you're indeed sitting in an RS model. And also like a regular A3, there is generous room for 2 adults in the front, and the standard heated electric sports seats with adjustable lumbar support are surprisingly comfortable yet also supportive when cornering hard.
Sunshine today. Now, Audi released this car actually in Sonoma green. They went with a green launch colour, which is quite bold, sets quite a statement. So it's been developed by Audi Sport on top of obviously the Audi A5. The RS5, the top model, has that 450 horsepower twin turbo V6 up front, 600 Newton meters, a red line at 6,700 RPM. But one of the sort of distinct things about the new look is, well, this sort of introduces new RS styling. So in particular, the front grille. If you compared this to the regular A5 grille, it is wider in terms of the new bumpers. It is also slightly narrower because it's lifted up at the bottom to give this extra cooling in through the lower section. Now, this car, the RS5, has a number of design styling cues, aerodynamic features, like you can see here with these inlets down at the bottom, and also alongside the light, which are inspired by the 90s quattro IMSA GTO. So that's kind of cool to bring that through. And it's a bit wider than the standard car. It's 15 millimeters at each corner, so 3 centimeters wider overall for the car. It comes as standard with a very high spec. The S5 and the RS5 both get Audi's LED lighting standard. This RS5 is spec'd very, very high indeed. We've got Audi Drive Select, obviously, but the Audi Drive control for the suspension, which we'll talk more about when we're driving. Coming around to the rear, see at the back, we've still got the very distinctive large oval tailpipes, which are a distinct feature of Audi RS models, having the split inside and those sort of large tailpipes for the finish. But it's very, very smart. You can see sort of outlets mirroring the inlets at the front there by the lights, and also down at the bottom. And obviously those also help with airflow around the side of the car, directing it and bringing it through, and this lip spoiler for a little bit of downforce, because the top speed in here, 270 kilometers per hour. That's 174 miles per hour. But what is also quite cool is the way it gets 0 to 62 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour in 3.9 seconds. So the RS5 has become pretty quick. It's done away with the 7-speed S-tronic double clutch, and it now has the sort of ever-popular 8-speed ZF automatic, which is a gearbox that just works so well. So it's no surprise that they'd make that to the V6 engine to make this car, or give it its go. This car has the standard brakes. You can also have it with ceramics. But as you can see on the outside, it's quite butch and aggressive, the way those sort of curves work over the bonnet with the lines that go down it. Has quite a lot of presence. The silver sort of highlights making it distinct. The quattro lettering, of course, reminding us that it's a four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive car. Audi sticking with that system, giving the car more stability and security, more grip, more traction off the line, and a number of other sort of benefits. As we're seeing from other manufacturers, the Mercedes-AMG E63 has moved towards an all-wheel drive system. The BMW M5, new generation's moving towards an all-wheel drive system. So there are clearly benefits to that, and Audi have stuck with their guns, stuck with the system, and going with quattro again, as always, on the RS5. Now I want to come around towards the front and show you the engine under the bonnet, so we'll just come in here quickly. We'll come back to the interior in a moment to go over that in more detail, but let's come around and take a glance at this. And it's a very heavy bonnet, even though the whole car is actually 60 kilos lighter than the previous generation. So there we go, it's a nice sort of carbon finish to the panel on the top with the sort of red highlights as well. You can never often see that much back here, but that's the power plant. You can see down here with all sort of heat shielding and cooling. It's rather efficient as these things go, 197 grams per kilometre of CO2, which is an impressive performance stat as well, or number. Let's drop that down, click it into place. And the way these sort of lights point down towards the grille, it's quite a sharp, nice styling cue. But let's head round to the inside to check this out in a little bit more detail. So in here, a couple of things. This car is obviously spec'd very nicely, but you've got these very supportive seats with this distinct quilting pattern. This colour goes really well mixed with the black of the leather around the steering wheel, the Alcantara here. On the door panel as well. We'll come back around all the buttons and switches later on, but just to sort of jump in and show you the main highlights. And the first thing is the big digital display that sits in front of us. The start-stop button is down here. Fire it into life with a little bit of a burble and a crackle. Now let me pull the door closed so we've got no messages, but you can see the screen has come to life. The default view we've got open at the moment with the large central rev counter, but this is a fantastic display and I'll go through more of it later on. But you have a view button right here where you can change the basic settings and have a full screen map if that's what you prefer, or all of your different sort of trip info or your music or whatever you'd like the system to show, which is quite nice. And you'll see at the moment in the center here we're in individual mode, the configurable Audi Drive Select. So you have a couple of different settings, and that controls all sorts of things. But one thing I'm going to do is pop the window down. So I think at the moment the exhaust valve is closed, meaning it's the sort of quietest version that you can have this set up in. And then if you'd like to change that, you can either press this hotkey right here or the Drive Select control panel down here. And when you press that button, it will show you the different modes here. You can configure them yourself, but you can hear the exhaust valve getting louder already. Let's just hear this now in loud mode.
This is a lighter car than before and also a faster one. This is good for 0 to 60 in a supercar rivaling 3.9 seconds, and with an optional dynamic pack is good for 174 miles an hour. What I really want to know though is how much fun is it on these mountain roads? And there's only one way to find out. You don't have to drive the RS5 for long to realise that this is a car with a dual personality. If you've got it in auto mode and you're driving in a sensible manner, it's pretty comfortable for a sports coupe, and the gearbox slurs smoothly between shifts. If, however, you flick it to manual mode and then put it to dynamic to sharpen everything up and make it a bit louder, this is a very, very fast car. That 0 to 60 time of 3.9 seconds we can totally believe. But while this thing does have fantastic grip, the steering always feels a little bit lifeless, although it is very precise and you know exactly where the nose of the car is. So, kind of makes you want to slacken things off a little bit, calm down, and focus on the usual Audi good bits. So this interior feels wonderfully well screwed together and looks great. The infotainment system has a rotary dial between the seats, which makes it really easy to navigate. And speaking of navigation, the sat-nav is really simple to follow, even if you're somewhere you have never been before. like here. We've now had the chance to drive the RS5 on a